just in that last bit there, AJ, about, people say that they're, I've forgiven them and all that kind of stuff. I've had many interactions with people that are definitely 100% sure that they've gone past it all.
Yeah.
And
they haven't begun.
And they haven't even started, yeah. And I find it challenging because they're completely oblivious to the way they're feeling. And
well, I feel the primary reason why a person does that is because in amongst all of this part here where we said the anger, the fear and the grief, there's what we could lump together and call pain, right? And so what does the average person want to do with pain? Deny, right? And what's the best way to deny?
Addiction.
To say you've already done it.
Or like when I speak to someone and they say, I talk about divine truth quite often, about my own experiences with it. And then people turn around and say, I've done a lot of pain crying before. And I'm like, you haven't even touched it yet.
Yep.
What you need to. Oh, but I've done so much, And it's like, well, you've done a lot of this other bit, but you haven't gone.
Well, what a lot of them have done, see, over the pain, remember, is the anger. And what a lot of them have done is had a big spit.
Tantrum.
Yeah, tantrum.
Yeah.
But let's call it a tantrum, shall we? Because that's what we'd call it if a child did it, right? And that's where most of our crying's been.
And that's where there's a lot of pain too, isn't it? In that
well,
tantrum phase too, isn't it?
Well, you're not getting what you want.
Yeah.
And all you're not doing is you don't want to give up your addiction, so you have a tantrum. And of course there's pain, but it's all a fake pain really in the end because you just don't want to give up the addiction. Right? So you might cry there, you might have some anger and then you might have a big cry, but you're just having a tantrum, just like a child does who doesn't get what he wants. And the next time the same situation happens, you have another tantrum. And the next time the same situation happens again, another tantrum, another tantrum, another tantrum, another tantrum. You can spend years having tantrums.
And the reason why I say it is because I get challenged, I find it hard to be around these people that do that because I want to be nice to them, but at the end of the day, I can't even have a conversation with them.
No, that's right. So what I do is I just say, well, you don't want to change, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You just want to keep having tantrums, that's okay, but I don't want to be with you either.
Yeah.
I don't want to be with a person who just keeps having tantrums. Would you like having a child around you having a tantrum all the time? No, because that's what a person is who does this. They're just like a child having a tantrum. They are a child having a tantrum, actually. Right? No matter how old they are, there might be an 80-year-old child having a tantrum, but they're still having a tantrum and they're still a child. And the reason why is because they're still in this anger phase that they feel like every addiction and every expectation and every demand should be met. And when it isn't met, they have a big cry about it. Right? But that's not going to get you anywhere.
No.
And you know that when you've gone through all of that differently. You know that when you've gone through this process of anger, fear, grief, you know that everyone who doesn't do that, you can feel that every single person who doesn't do that. And they can try to convince you otherwise.
And they do.
And they do try to convince you otherwise. But at the end of the day, you don't have to listen to it. You just say, no, I can't agree with you. And
yeah, that's my challenge at the moment then.
Just saying I can't agree with you.
Like I say, I don't agree, but then I still have this thing that I want to help them, but at the end of
you can't help a person who wants to deny.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no desire in them to change. You can't help a person who wants to deny. You just leave them in their denial. Yeah. There's nothing you can do to help a person get out of denial and into something else. There's something they can do. They can do something to help them out of denial, but do they want to?
Yeah.
And this is where, like, my suggestion is spend time sharing truth with people who want to hear it.
Because they do initially. Initially, I can feel there's an opening to hear something.
Yeah, but as soon as you start feeling it close,
you
just say, look, you've just closed down. You don't want to hear anymore because I'm not telling you what you want to hear. There's your addiction. I'll catch you later.
As soon as I say God, they're gone.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as I mention God, it's end of conversation.
So that's okay. Don't have the conversation.
Yeah.
And I understand that initially you might feel restricted in your life to doing so. But eventually that's not the case at all. You have hundreds of people who want to hear about what you've got to say.
Yeah, like it's not a whole bunch of people. It's only like a few people that I have these interactions with.
And in a way you're attracting it because you're unwilling to say the truth. Look, mate, or
Yeah, what to say?
whoever it is.
Yeah.
You say, look, you don't want to get out of your anger. You want to keep having your tantrums, and that's okay. You want to stay in denial. That's okay too. I can see you're in denial, and I don't really want to spend much time with people who are in denial, if that's okay with you, because that's pretty okay with me. Right. A lot of people ask us, myself and Mary, like why we don't spend time with different people. You know, there's different people we've known for a long period of time, and yet we don't spend much time with them. And the main reason is because they're in denial. And we don't really enjoy spending time with people in denial. Yeah.
Thanks for that.
And like, I don't see why you would enjoy it, to be honest. Like, you have to talk about mundane things all the time with them, and you know, you ask them about their cat and how was the weather today, and then as soon as you go into anything more meaningful, they're in denial. What's the point of that? Like,
because I can't really have conversation unless it's based upon desire to have a conversation, or even desire to understand. Like, I get excitement out of seeing people start to connect to what they love.
Definitely.
And yes,
you can't help a person in denial or connect to anything.
And I've tried to give, you know.
Why have you tried?
This thing about wanting to save people.
See, they sort of give that up. You can't give people a saviour. They've got to save themselves. Yeah, let's say, this is your addiction. Why do you want to save them?
To get a sense of feeling good about myself.
Why? So that means you're dependent upon somebody else's doing something in order to feel good about yourself.
Yeah, as in, like, I feel like I'm doing some good in the world, I guess, you know.
Yeah, no. So there's an addiction.
Yeah.
That you can so work on that addiction. Let it go. Work through the layers. Forgive yourself for having that addiction and work your way through the layers of it, and let yourself feel all the reasons why you do it. And you'll get to the point where you feel like, yeah, to be honest, the only person I'll ever want to help is someone who wants to be helped. Yeah. And to be honest, isn't that what free will would actually dictate?
Yeah.
If a person wants help, then you can give it. But if a person doesn't want help, why would you even attempt to give it? You're trying to force them to have help against their will. That's not honouring free will. Yeah. So this is where we've got to be careful too, Fab. Like, how much of our own addiction is involved in our disappointment of somebody's response? Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So people in denial can't learn a single thing, to be honest. The only thing you can help them do is try to get out of denial. The only thing that helps them get out of denial is truth. And if you set the truth and they deny it, what can you do? Yeah. Nothing. You can't bop in the nose and say, you stupid idiot. Why haven't you accepted the truth? You know, you can't imprison them and go, you silly person, you know, I'm going to imprison you for the rest of your life until you accept that truth.
Yeah, I have had the interactions where I have said it and said that I can't speak anymore, and I get that closed coldness, and they walk away and angry with me for the rest of the evening. Yeah,
but you are sensitive to that emotionally, and you're worried about that emotion being projected at you.
Yeah, I am. It affects me.
Yeah.
And even with men too, like if I confront men directly, I'm scared of the physical attack. Yeah, I can protect myself physically, but it's an emotional fear of the attack. Yeah.
Whereas if you truly love a person, you'll just state the truth, let them have their response. If their response is anger, rage, they want to bop you in the nose, well, let them have their response. Whatever their response is their response. It's not your worth associated with it. So there's obviously a connection between your worth and what you get out of helping people.
Yeah, which is why I haven't really gone somewhere with music, because of worth and in me anyway.
Yeah. So the key is to stop trying to help people who don't want help. Because there's not much you can do for them until they want help. When they want help, then do what you can. Yeah. Do everything you can, actually.
It's quite fun then, actually.
Well, it's a beautiful process. Like I said to you as a group last week, there was such an openness last week to talking about different matters that it was just a pleasure to spend 4 hours with you. Yeah. This week's a bit different. There's a lot more closed feelings about this family issue, huge closed feelings about that. About the forgiveness issue, huge close feelings about it. We haven't even got to the soulmate issue yet. Right. So it's a lot harder to share truth with a small, there's a smaller number of people who want to hear about that truth. When we were talking about the abuse issues, there was a lot of closeness about that. So that means that many of you have had some abuse issues in the past, right? And you know you have. But you still don't want to actually feel your feelings about it. You want other people to take responsibility for it. Yes. Yeah? So these are things, whenever you feel, you can feel in a room, right? When the room gets all like a bit heavy, you know, that feeling that starts to develop. That's the resistance. And once the resistance begins in you, you have a whole heap of spirits that come in as well. And they all just come in and go, yeah, you don't want to go down that track, man. And they're just trying to oppress you in that place. And you feel very oppressed, like you can't speak up, you can't hear, you even find it hard to concentrate on what's being said. All of that is happening because of resistance to, you're in denial. You want to stay in denial about something. Usually it's the topic being discussed right there and then. Yeah. With regard to the issue with family, the majority of you have a large amount of denial. You want to believe in family. You want to believe that the family unit is, you know, mum, dad, son, daughter, generation after generation. You want to believe that's important, and it's not. From God's perspective, it has no more importance than any other issue of love in the universe. Yeah. And God created it as a thing for us to learn about things, so it has importance from that perspective. But your family doesn't have any more value than any other person's family, or less value than any other person's family. And when you would treat your son or daughter differently than you would treat any child that you see, that is an indication that you have a flawed opinion of family. When you would treat your mother and father any different than what you would treat any other older person than you, that means you have a flawed definition of family. Because from God's perspective, you will treat all of them the same. Because you love all of them, you recognise all of them are your brothers and sisters. So this is a big issue, family.